As a volleyball player, if you ever feel kind of slow on the court, like your brain knows what it wants you to do, but your muscles just aren't reacting fast enough, then you're gonna wanna watch this video all the way through because I'm gonna explain one really simple training technique you can use to fix that really quickly. By the way, my name is Greg. I also go by the Volleyball Strength Coach, and I train volleyball players all the way up from 12 years old up to the professional level. I work with them online and in person, and I train athletes in beach volleyball and indoor volleyball. And what I want to teach you about to help you get faster on the court is actually isometrics, but probably not isometrics in the way you're used to hearing about them as far as like holding isometric positions, which is really good for things like jumper's knee. I want to talk about it more in the aspect of pause reps in the exercises that you're doing. So in a squat, you go down, you pause in the bottom, and then you explode up out of there. And I'm going to explain why this is going to help you get stronger, powerful, faster, and more resilient to injury. So when we're looking at any kind of exercise or kind of movement, there's three phases of the muscular contraction that basically always happen. There's the eccentric phase, which is where the muscle is lengthening, and that's when you're going down into a squat. There's the isometric portion where there is no change in the muscle length, so when you're in the bottom of the squat. And there's the concentric contraction, which is then where the muscle is shortening or contracting and you're coming up out of the squat. Now, no matter what, whether you're focusing on it or not, there is always a slight pause. There's always a slight isometric in the bottom of that movement. It could be nearly instant, or it could be like what we're talking about today, which is where we're deliberately holding that for a longer period. And there's a few benefits that I'm gonna get into. One of them is for the tendons and two of them are kind of sciencey, so I'm gonna do the tendon one first. Anytime we are doing an exercise that has an extended time under tension, like going down in a slow eccentric, or pausing in an isometric, that increased time under tension is going to do a really good job of helping you strengthen your tendons. So all lifting is going to strengthen your tendons in some fashion, but if we're doing things kind of quickly or not really focused on tempo, more like just like a general bodybuilding style program, you're strengthening the muscle a lot more than you're strengthening the tendon. But when you're doing slow eccentrics or pause reps, you're getting a larger benefit for the tendons, and those are going to increase in a better proportion to the muscle. So it helps get your tendons stronger. And when your tendons are stronger, you're less likely to get jumper's knee and you're able to express your speed and power better. One of the other reasons this is beneficial is something called motor unit recruitment. And without getting too sciencey, because I don't really want to get too deep into that, basically, we don't use all of our muscle fibers in a muscle when the muscle contracts. We use some percentage of it, because if we did use 100% of our muscle fibers all at once and they all contracted at the same time, our muscle would actually rip off of the bone. When I was in undergrad, I learned about scientists who took a gastrocnemius muscle, so calf muscle, from a cadaver, and they put an electric shock in it to make all of the muscle fibers contract at the same time, and it produced well over 1,000 pounds of force. And if that's not something that your body is ready for, which none of ours are, that could just rip right off. And what something like pause reps will do is actually get your brain and your nervous system to recruit a higher amount of those muscle fibers. So right now, when you do a squat, if you use 20% of the muscle fibers in your quads, when you do these pause reps or any kind of tempo reps, you can maybe increase that to 30% or 40%, which is essentially one of the ways we get stronger without increasing the size or amount of muscle. The second sciencey thing that isometrics help with is something called rate coding, where as we're increasing the number of muscle fibers we're using during exercise, we can also decrease the time that they all contract. So instead of them contracting with a longer time delay in between each muscular contraction, you can get them to all contract more at the same time, which is going to increase your total force output, which is then going to make you stronger and more powerful. This in total is going to make our nervous system work together more efficiently. And this is what's going to really help things like your reaction time or your change of direction ability. So at the beginning, I talked about you want to move and you're trying to move, but you're just not moving as fast as you want to. This aspect, this rate coding increase, is going to help you decrease the time delay between when your brain says to do something and your muscles actually do it. So how are you going to do this? It's really simple. All you're going to do is add a 3 to 4 second pause between aspects of the eccentric and concentric during an exercise. And it's typically after the eccentric, you do your pause and then you do your concentric. There's certain things like a pull-up where you would do it actually after the concentric, you would pause and then do your eccentric, or a row. Those are kind of some of the only examples. For the most part, it's you do your eccentric, you pause, and then you explode up on the concentric. So for an example, what I would recommend for a squat is you go down at a controlled speed, pause 3 to 4 seconds in the bottom, and then explode out as fast as you can. Or with a bench press, you would come down at a controlled speed, pause 3 to 4 seconds just off of your chest, and then explode up as fast as you can for there. And when I'm talking about exploding up, that doesn't necessarily mean do lighter weights. You still want this to be as heavy as you can do with good technique. but you want the intention of moving the weight really fast, regardless of if you actually are or not. So at this point, if you're coming off of the eccentric phase where you're going down slow on everything, I don't want you to do that anymore, but I also don't want you to just drop and bottom out into the exercise. I want it to be a controlled descent and then a pause and then a very aggressive ascent from the exercise, like a squat. Again, if you are coming off of an eccentric phase, this should generally be easier and you should be able to increase your weights week over week from what you did last time. So, if you finish your squat at 225 and that's the most you could get for 3 reps, this week try to do more, 235, 245. You will generally find this to be a bit easier. For the 4 and 4 challenge, that's one of the big things that's changing this week. Obviously, we're going from the eccentrics to the isometrics. That's a big change and a big switch, so try to push the weight on all of those aspects. There are some other changes in the program, so take a look at the warm-ups, pay close attention to the plyometrics and some of the accessory work. A lot of it is going to be really similar, especially on the concentric days. A lot of the main stuff is similar, but look at those other aspects. The warm-ups, the plyos are all going to be different because we need some progression in there. But make sure you're switching from the eccentrics to the isometrics for this week and for next week. Really quick, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit a like on this video. I'm going to be doing a lot more long form content like this on YouTube. So make sure you hit the subscribe video so you can follow along and you don't miss good volleyball training content like this.